It's Monday noon, the time is here. Shane and I'll be loud and clear. Pacific vibes, we bring the heat. AI agents can't be beat. AI agents out, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Solving problems, we do it live. Stay informed, it's a vibe. Building agents that work for you. Making moves, we see it through. Every week, a brand new show. Tag along and watch your knowledge grow. AI agents out, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Answering questions, we arrive. Every Monday, come alive. We want reviews, but only if it's a 5. We share the drama, we got the drive. Stay in the loop, it's the place to be. Shane and Abhi setting you free. Tune in Mondays, make your day. From the news to the problem solved. AI world, get involved.
Every week in AI, something insane happens.
And there's so much drama. Every Monday, we break it down live.
We do the news, we bring on guests, building in the space.
And we go deep into the stuff that actually matters.
Agents Hour, every Monday, noon Pacific.
Follow, don't miss it. Peace.
This is Agents Hour with Shane, Thomas, and Abhi Aiyer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Agents Hour. It's Monday. It is definitely not noon Pacific. We're a little delayed, but we are in person this week, so that's a bonus. Yeah. What's up, dude?
Nothing much. We're in the CodeRabbit office once again. It's gotten a lot better since we've been here.
Feels cozy.
Cozier here.
Yeah.
And very orange.
Yeah, so thanks to CodeRabbit for letting us hang out in the orange studio, but it is great to be here in person. We got a jam-packed show today. We have 2 guests that we're bringing on in person, which is nice. You know, we do a lot of virtual guests. That's fun, but in person it feels a little better. It's kind of
interesting.
Nice. Yeah.
We haven't done a in-person guest.
So you'll get to see a few different people. We have Ben from Freestyle coming on. As you can see, Abhi, you gotta say something.
Oh yeah, the camera. Look here. There you go. Freestyle.sh.
And
some swag.
Then we got Juan from CodeRabbit. And then, of course, we're going to cover the news like we do every week. If you're new around here, I'm Shane. I'm one of the co-founders of Mastra. I'm here with Abhi. He's one of the other co-founders. And we do this every week. We talk about news. We talk with guests. And yeah, as Medi Game says, Shane and Abhi setting you free if you listen to the intro music. I don't know if we do that, but we will try. And so I think we should probably just jump into it right away. Why don't we bring on our first guest?
Yes, let's do it.
And Abhi's going to talk with Ben from Freestyle.
Dude, did you subscribe?
Dude, I host the show. Did you subscribe?
Did you subscribe?
Subscribe to Agents Hour every Monday, noon Pacific.
Agents Hour, here to stay. Tune in Mondays, make your day. From the news to the problem solved. AI world, get involved.
All right. Hey, Ben, welcome to the show. First time caller, long time listener. Why don't we get this thing started? Why don't you tell the audience who you are?
Hi, all. I'm Ben. I am the CEO and a co-founder of Freestyle.sh. We make VMs for AI agents.
Okay, nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big topic these days, right? Or are you in the sandboxing territory? Would you say you're in the sandboxes?
So I hate the word sandbox. I think it's a word invented to cover up bad VMs.
Okay.
But I think the sandbox wars are just starting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just starting. Were you always doing sandboxes?
No,
or
we
VMs?
started about 18 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, we built this really interesting substrate of compute that was serverless JavaScript execution. I love it very dearly. It was able to like 10 millisecond cold start, average like P99 responses around like 150 milliseconds. And nobody wanted it. Everybody kept saying it's incompatible with this, incompatible with that. And it became somewhat clear to my deep annoyance that what people needed was something more powerful.
Yeah.
So instead of undershooting, we tried to overshoot with VMs.
Was that JavaScript execution thing what you went into YC for?
Actually, no again.
Okay.
So,
Take me from the beginning.
all right. So my co-founder and me were contractors at Apple before we did YC. And at Apple, we'd been fiddling in our free time with this database engine that was gonna be a Supabase convex competitor. And we really loved this thing. We got into YC with it. We did our entire YC batch on it, came out of YC with it. And then we got an early O3 demo, and it hit us kind of in the face that like, okay, the database, the framework wars are dead. That people are going to be writing code with agents now, and that what we had built was fundamentally a tool for humans, and that no longer made sense. So we killed that in November 2024 and went in on trying to do deployments for AI agents, then executions for AI agents. And these days we have tried to go as maximalist as we can on them. So VMs and code storage for AI agents.
You know, I first met you at a hackathon. I think it was a mutual investor of ours, Transpose.
Yeah.
And I think at that time you were doing, let's say, the JavaScript execution
Mm-hmm.
piece, and Mastra was there. We're trying to get each of these swim lanes to use our product and then do all that type of stuff. You had like the most showing of that hackathon back then. So you've been in SF for a bit.
Yeah.
I've seen you on the streets. Ben and I have been to Mimosa Brunch together. I'll just put that out there, okay? All you can drink for sure. How do you like the city?
I love it. I moved here dropping out of college, and this is like the first place that I found like my people.
Okay.
I love everywhere else, but here has been where I have like a proper friend group of people who I think are as neurotic as I am, like you.
Yeah, exactly. When we went to that brunch, you told me that you were running server racks in your garage. Can we tell the story to the audience about this?
So I think it makes sense to make this sound a little less stupid and how we got here.
Okay.
So when we were doing JavaScript execution, we were recompiling V8 on every single one of our builds, along with a ginormous Rust binary, and we got our build times up to 45 minutes. We talked to the amazing companies in this space. That's Blacksmith, and that's, what's the other one? There are good build companies, and they basically could not give us a big enough cache to make this work. So we had to stand up our own CI server, basically purely so we could get a big enough disk to store our Rust cache.
Yeah.
And that was surprisingly easy. Like, we didn't really plan for that to go well. That was kind of a stopgap until somebody else could, until we could have someone else do it.
Yeah.
And then it just worked, and we kept doing it. And eventually we took all of our builds there. And then while we were starting on VMs, we had this realization a while, early on in building it, in the first month or two, that even if you take a VM with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 16 gigabytes of disk, that's still 24 gigabytes. And the act of moving these between nodes is deeply, deeply painful. If you're looking at basic EC2 networking, you're at 1 gigabyte a second, which means 30 seconds for best conditions. Like S3, it's around the speed. You can obviously make this better. You can fight the cloud, but the cloud does not like moving this data, and computers don't like moving this data. So we had this hypothesis a while ago that if we could just do it all on our own node, we could make that node way bigger and then make this problem way smaller. And during a early prototype, our cloud version just broke down, and we switched it to literally one of our old computers, and it worked better in the cloud.
Yeah.
So that was where we started, with just VMs there. And then over time, as we kind of started to grow a bit, I think there was 1 month where our cloud bill got to 45 or 50K that month.
Wow.
And that sucked.
Yeah.
We were paying literally thousands of dollars a day, maybe $1,000 a day for logs at one point.
Yeah.
So my biggest self-host recommendation is self-host ClickHouse.
Yeah.
It is so much better, and you can have so many more logs. But it just became very obvious to us over time that this was for what we were doing made more sense, where the efficiency and margins really do make the difference.
So then, okay, so you're running this stuff in your house, and your co-founder is like, Guilfoyle. Like,
yes,
when I heard this, I was like, this is some Silicon Valley shit, like for sure. And I thought it was, at first I remember telling you, I was like, dude, don't do that. But you did save so much money. So, but then, okay, like, what's the process of actually operating that in your house? And
so the first thing we have going for us is we own the house.
Yeah.
So this is not something you can just do in an apartment. We have duplicated internet. We have ran backup power lines and hooked up power here. We have literally cut a hole in the wall to get more.
Just like Guilfoyle did.
Yeah, like we literally had to cut a hole in the wall to make this work. And by the way, I want to give all credit to Jacob here, my co-founder, who is like Guilfoyle. He really is the one who pioneered all this. And we've taken really big steps to make this reliable. We have duplicated internet. We have a power wall followed by a backup kerosene generator and a thing of kerosene in our basement.
Yeah.
Along with a fingerprint protected door to keep people out. So we took this pretty much as far as we could. And it was a lot of computers work very well, like Linux works really, really well. And a lot of the things you think will be problems aren't. Like have probably hundreds of drives now, and I don't think we've ever had a drive break.
Interesting.
We have had reliability issues, but it has never been because of the hardware itself.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part of it has been networking, just like in the cloud, ironically. Really figuring out how do I get this node from me to my customers? How do I get this node to talk to each other? And how do they not destroy each other? I think our worst issues in the past 3 months have been somehow DDoSing ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
So you've been running this infra. Now you have this new product where, sandboxes, the sandbox wars are going on.
Yeah.
And I think you position yourselves not as a sandbox, as an agent VM, let's say. Why do you think that positioning is so important?
So the way I, in particular, see the word sandbox is very distinctly, I can't stand behind calling this a VM. If I called this a VM, it would piss people off because it's not a real VM. And that's great. Frankly, when I was trying to sell JavaScript execution, the big gotcha I had is this JavaScript execution primitive I had would have been the most perfect primitive for AI agents a year before we built it.
Yeah.
But at the time I'd built it, AI agents had gotten beyond simple JavaScript scripts and had moved on to running, pandas and Jupyter notebooks. And in that way, these sandboxes were perfect. They barely have any RAM. They start up instantly and they can make a little graphic, do a little math, pull down a file, do a transform, and they're done. And that's in some ways a lot of what AI does today. And for that, generally, for jobs that last less than 30 seconds, just use a sandbox. They're better. But I think AI agents, we're about to reach this point of background agents for everything. We're starting to see it. People just having hundreds, well, maybe dozens now, hundreds for some of the best people, and I think soon everyone, of just agents working on tasks for hours and days at a time.
Yeah.
And when you start spending billions of tokens per task, hours per task, these things don't fit in a 8 gigabyte container. They need higher IO, they need more RAM, they need more storage, more CPUs, and more than that, they need better virtualization.
Yeah.
Some of our other sandbox competitors have ran on such stripped down kernels that they can't run in themselves. They can't run things like Netlink. They break down in random places. And there's no specific break, but it's a general, one of the really classics I like to tell people is just try to run Supabase on these sandboxing platforms. When you start running something with 11 services, Redis breaks here, everything breaks there. And really making it a VM where I want you to treat this like your computer is what we're focused on.
Plus, to get these sandboxes with all the bells and whistles, you have to be on higher pricing tiers for something that you could just go on, have a node in Google Cloud that's dedicated, right?
Yes, that is there's always the question of when do you want to use an EC2?
Yeah.
And I think more than less you do. EC2s are incredible. They're incredibly stable. They work well. And there's a point to them. I think the big thing that I'm hoping will differentiate VMs and sandboxes from EC2s is the programmability of them.
Okay.
EC2s seem to me, at least, to be really a beautiful rent computer service.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to be as orchestratable as us. I think memory snapshotting, forking, branching, these are, or I just said the same thing twice, but forking, building out networks as declarative code that you can string these services together and explore them is something that I've yet to see someone do well on one of the pre-existing clouds, though Garrison Hayes from Compute SDK is making strides there.
Yeah, Garrison, legit.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, because you said snapshotting and forking, are you using Firecracker?
Not anymore.
Okay.
I think we do use a large part of Firecracker. We use a lot of this project called Rust VMM.
Okay.
Rust VMM is beautiful. It's this, I mean, like, this happens in open source from time to time, but I think this is a really special one. Are you familiar with this?
Not Rust VMM.
So the team from Google's VMs and Amazon's VMs and one other VM team have all came together to create a set of generic crates and structures that they all use, that all of the VMMs are built around. And it means that some of the worst reverse engineering that would be undoable a couple years ago is fairly simple now. You can really string up your own without that much work.
Okay.
We still rely on large chunks of Firecracker, but in particular, Firecracker was really made with an emphasis on instant start time. And as we start to get more complex, Firecracker has major limitations. They can't support GPUs. Firecracker snapshots are destructive. That's really the best one, or the worst one that I think about a lot. That caused me headaches when we were on Firecracker.
Yeah.
That is, when you try to snapshot a VM and it fails in Firecracker, you actually can't re-snapshot it without paying a huge I/O cost. It's a destructive action, which makes reliability just obscene.
Well, why do you think there's this big, I'm going to check out this project after the show, but why do you think there's this big Firecracker hubbubaloo going on Twitter right now?
Well, Firecracker's incredible, I think Mastra was pretty early in this, that you don't give the agent 50 tools. You kind of want to give it a good environment that is a solid environment that it can compose.
Yeah.
And if you were to try to build your own VMM, Firecracker is the best starting point.
Okay.
It makes it so that really anybody with a big enough computer can just start to spin up tons of these tiny machines that your AI can actually work in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You want to show a demo?
Sure. I did not plan on demoing today. Let's see how this goes.
Or show whatever you can, I guess.
Yeah. We have a pretty cute demo that I'll bring up here.
Cool. And for everyone watching, this is a live show. So if you have questions for Ben, please put them in the chat. But yeah, spin up this demo.
Let's do it. Okay. So I'm going to try to screen share here. Bear with me. Do I do a live call-in? Is that it?
Are you in the...
Yeah.
Yeah, just screen share.
Okay. Start live. Hi. I'm really... there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, it says I'm ringing you guys. All
there
right.
you are.
So let's bring up the screen. And can you guys see this?
Yep. I could see it. Can y'all see it? Let's
So,
hide that window in the bottom right.
Yep.
There you
We're
go.
gone. All right.
Cool.
So this is our dashboard. And the loose thing that I have really focused on in the past while and a half is focusing on making this debuggable. It's really hard to figure out the difference between these and an EC2. And the way I like to really show that is looking at what you get with these. So with and this is not a freestyle thing. This is all the sandbox providers that are serious have this, where you can see live pulls of the metrics. You can see the kernel logs, and then I'm gonna pop this open in a terminal to start. And it'll just spin me in there. And I think what's really special about this, let me do an apt update and an apt install tmux-y, is the memory snapshotting. I find the memory snapshotting to be the coolest thing in the world. So what's happening now is we're installing Tmux here, and it's not going to let me do this because of my terminal config. I'm going to stop sharing for a sec to get a ChatGPT help.
Live demos, y'all.
Yeah, you got it. So setting up my terminal quickly. Apologies.
No problem,
Yeah.
dude. No problem at all. That's why Juan will cut this better after.
All right, I love to hear it. Count to 100, one line bash script. Bash script, 1 second in between. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna reshare, and I'm gonna show the magic trick of sandboxes.
Cool.
Or at least freestyle sandboxes. So we can go in here, and I'm gonna just start counting to 100. This is a very lame demo. You guys all see the counter, it's going up.
Yep.
So I'm now gonna go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to click snapshot, and I'm gonna call this one the Mastra snap. And I want you guys to notice while this thing's going, it stops for a second, but it actually only stops for 300 milliseconds.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going. And then while we're working, I believe it created a snapshot. So we have this Mastra snap.
And then that bottom.
Oh, yep. We have this Mastra snapshot here that we just created of this running VM, everything in it. So I'm going to now create a new VM from that snapshot right here. And just like that, and again, like pretty much instantly, we have a VM, and we can tmux attach here. It does not want to let me tmux attach. Let's kill that one, and let's do another VM from it. Mastra snapshot. Give me my snapshot. Tmux. There we are. Let me get my xterm tmux. Let me quickly exit this. Xterm tmux, attach. And there we are. So what you have here is this is a bit behind this one.
Yeah, but
It's a complete memory snapshot of the VM. And what I want to highlight that's, I think, especially special about the tech we've been pursuing is you guys saw that little 300 millisecond pause there where it was a little like delayed. That is the same size for 8 gigabytes of RAM as it is for 64 gigabytes of RAM. Then that is the same for 64 as 128. You could have a 200 gigabyte disk. And by the way, we're all bare metal on NVMe's. These are good disks, and we can get you these exact copies of them in milliseconds. And I think that is what we're focused on. I think one of the things that I've been most excited about recently is we launched our networks and VPNs APIs. So you can now string these together. And actually, like what we were doing before this is working with coding agent companies where you take your local stack, you run it in a Docker Compose, and then you can really actually start like ripping on like as though it's you know, not just an 8 gigabyte sandbox, but like a proper Linux machine that has all your stuff so your AI can actually rip on it. But to go beyond us, what we've been working on recently is the tech that's actually necessary for the AI to spin up its own entire copy of your stack, not a Docker Compose bullshit copy, but like
the legit stack.
Of the legit stack. And same 100 milliseconds, snapshotting every VM in the entire network to bring back the entire network so that you can really let your AIs start to get into the debugging. I think to use the hype term, close the loop, you know, once they can really run your production stack, then, you know, that's the end game.
So in this case, right, like I'll put this in like some Mastra terms for my own head. You know, we have a coding agent called Mastra Code. And our dream for it is for it to be its own Devin in our Slack. But the minute it crosses the chasm into a cloud coding agent, execution becomes important. Like you can't just be on a local, you know, I mean, it could, but you don't really want that to be. And every session it creates is either a shared sandbox, a namespaced one, or it could be a forked one of, you know, the one I was just using, and I don't have to restart the whole stack again. Because right now, these environments that are spinning up from scratch for the most part, right?
So I want to emphasize a little bit, like the speed consideration is important. It matters for UX, it matters for debuggability, and it matters for capability. But it's, I think, secondary to, I think, debuggability. The idea that like you can produce an edge state in Mastra and you can get a perfect snapshot of exactly where the memory was when
Yes.
that edge happened. You can get a stream of the logs that got it there. Like these edges used to like, they still take me, like most of my time is reproducing edge cases.
Yeah, same.
But now that we have this, you can rip your agent for days. And if it can just produce it once in that millisecond, you can have it
Yeah.
forever. And like, then you can have a million copies of it to really analyze.
Yeah. Okay, so then it's not necessarily so. For example, people can just do random execution in these VMs. They can use it to reproduce their stack and then essentially build their product or debug their product. What are some like? What is like the golden use case you think?
So the first thing I want to do is I want to tell people not to use me. If you're doing run Python code, don't use me. If you are doing things that have an average execution time of less than 15 minutes, don't use Freestyle. Use a sandbox provider. They're tiny, they're great, they're cheap. But if you are using AI agents that I think are doing in particular hard tasks, hard long-running tasks, tasks that are evalable, I think are a really good case for this, because at that point it benefits you to run 10 copies instead of just one. That is, I think, the people who should really consider the top of the line of the sandbox market. There are other options here, but I think like when you go beyond a sandbox is when you start to do an agent that is not simply running code, but really trying to replace you. You know, I can say some of my favorite things is about a month and a half ago, we actually achieved full virtualization of ourselves, and we do a lot of crazy, like we only run on bare metal, so that was a huge thing. And now on every single PR, we actually spin up a full copy of ourselves and have the AI try to break it.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to get there, you get really, really cool stuff. And like, that is what we are building for.
Awesome. Well, if you will, let's leave the audience with one last thing. Anything you want to plug, whatever. Also, thanks for coming on, by the way.
Thanks for having me. I'll say I've been really excited for the past couple months. I think around 4.6, there was an inflection point. And the way these agents run has really changed. To look back at my biggest mistake, I think we were too late on simple code execution. And I think right now, like, I feel like we're right in the right timing, that we're about, like with Mastra, I'm sure you guys are talking about background agents a lot. Like, I think we're about to see the rise in like all of these CLI agents. Why are you watching it type? You know, like we're about to see these things go from taking 5 minutes on your prompts to taking 45 minutes to doing them 10 times. It's going to be a huge quality bar jump. It's going to really change the things that are built. So build to be virtualized, build to be tested. And
build for long running.
Long running. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ben. If you all don't know, go to freestyle.sh. Check them out. That was a cool ass demo. And I'm going to go look into that Rust VMM after this. So thank you. We'll have you on next time. Anything that comes up, new stuff, come on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
Like, share, and subscribe.
And follow us on X.
And tell your friends.
And their friends.
I mean, we're not begging.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Subscribe to Agents Hour every Monday, noon Pacific.
We're back. Well, I'm back. Abhi was just here. And I have the pleasure to introduce Juan, who is from CodeRabbit. Juan, maybe introduce you. We're in your awesome office. We're in the we're in the studio. But tell people a little bit about what you do here, and then we'll talk a little bit more about CodeRabbit, of course.
No, it's great to always have you all in the studio. I think I learned a lot from this live stream. So I'm both like someone who is at the studio, but also something is learning at the same time that we're recording all of these. Hey everyone, my name is Juan. I am working at CodeRabbit in the developer experience team. A lot of the things that I do go multiple ways. One of them is working on the benchmarks and how we communicate like when new models come out. How do we tell people about how we're integrating those new models into CodeRabbit? What are the differences, the benefits, and how will people experience these changes on their code reviews? The other piece that I do is a lot of like the community pieces. So if you're on the CodeRabbit Discord, Reddit, all over the internet, I try to help out there. And I also help with content on our team. So I have things from, I don't know, helping our team to release blog posts, what are some of the interesting pieces that we should be covering, and then helping them out, like communicate that to developers in a way that is consistent, makes sense. And last one, I think almost forgot about this. I work a lot on the agentic experience of CodeRabbit. So how is the CodeRabbit CLI working, and how can developers and agents use the CLI in the best way possible?
Yeah, well, that's a lot. It sounds like you're doing a lot here. But the most important thing that I heard was you watched the show, so that's good. I'm kidding.
I mean, definitely like a way to learn how things are. I just love that I could probably spend like 3 to 4 hours on Twitter, or I can watch this 1 hour show and get all the news.
Yeah, appreciate the plug for anyone watching. This is a live show though, so as we, I know Juan's going to show some demos. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff you're doing here. But if you have a question, drop it in the chat, and we'll bring it up here and talk about it on the show. So I guess one of the things that stuck out to me that I saw from CodeRabbit, it might have been a month ago now. I lose track of time, but I've been struggling with internally and talking to the team internally, and I was begging for there's got to be a better way than GitHub PR reviews, because the idea in today's age, when you're pumping out so much code, of a top-down list of files to read, and you have these coding agents who can make massive sweeping changes, and then you have to try to parse that. Feels like the code review interface hasn't changed in years. I mean, maybe in the last decade, really. And then, lo and behold, you release something, and I didn't even know you were cooking it up. So maybe we can talk a little bit about CodeRabbit's code review tool, because I think that is, I don't know, I've been using it a little bit, playing around with it, but excited to hear like what does it do? How have people been liking it? How are you iterating on it?
Totally. I think what you mentioned is exactly what we were envisioning, where CodeRabbit, we're lucky that like a ton of open source and like companies and users use like CodeRabbit every day. And something that we've noticed is that as coding agents become better in these long horizon tasks, they also start producing way larger PRs than what we were really used to. If you think about like GitHub when it was born, or probably like before 2019, the PR kind of like code review process would make sense just because of the nature of us human beings creating like pieces of code and then human beings reviewing those pieces of code. But as PRs start to grow, it's not only about like having coding agents reviewing the code itself, but it's also about how can we ensure that you as a developer or someone who's maintaining this code base still understand what the changes that are happening, so you're able to continue to have that understanding of your code base. I don't know if you have reviewed like PRs that are like more than 1,000 lines of code. Before, probably you could go through them, but just like the volume of these of the number of PRs and the volume of code in these PRs is just extremely high. And people are just generally like relying on coding agents to review those. So the idea there is like, how can we offer developers the ability to continue to understand that code base? Yeah,
I think that is something that I know personally, just internally at Mastra, we've been struggling with. It's like, do you have to read every line of code today? Yes, no, maybe. I mean, sometimes it depends on what the surface area. If it's like a framework, low level thing, you do need to read every line of code. If it's a user-facing feature that maybe you can change later and it's more front-endy, maybe you don't have to read it as much. But there's like this area of what can be reviewed by an agent and you can ship without a detailed review, and what needs human curation. And then when you have a lot of file changes and a lot of lines of code change, that's where it gets like unmanageable to manage these huge PRs that are, it seems like our jobs as engineers have changed from writing code to just reviewing code. It's like I feel like you used to spend 80% of your time writing code and 20% of your time reviewing like a colleague's code. And now it's like it's like 50% reviewing the code that the agent wrote for you and 50% reviewing the code the agent wrote for someone else that they then PR'd for you to review. So it feels like it's a little bit different game.
There's still like this sense of responsibility of the code that you're approving. Like
Yeah.
you want to ensure that things are like moving fast, but at the same time that you're just not letting like slop hit your customers or users.
Yeah, because once it starts to set in, it gets, because you don't have as much of a, you're not as dialed into the code base as you used to be because people are shipping so much faster. You don't know all the details, where before, people moved, a lot relatively slower. It felt like you could get a handle on what everything was happening in the code, at least more so. And today it feels like it's really hard. So if you let any slop in early, it feels like it just like infects the code base and seeps through if you drop the quality bar just a little bit.
100%. The other piece that I think is important is when you see like the interface, like the code review interface or the PR merge request if you're using GitLab, like the interface hasn't evolved again like in like 10 to 12 years since like these interfaces were born. I think GitHub was like 2008 when it was like started, something like that. So there hasn't been a lot of change in that sense. And the other piece that is really hard right now is that coding agents don't make a change in a single file, where you can just like probably, if you see the interface for pull requests, you can just go like from top to bottom. Now you also have like horizontal changes. So you have one file changes, but also like a ton of the files surrounding will change. And the current way that the merge or pull request UI works is completely horizontally. So if you want to understand like something that changed in one file and how it impacts other files or other pieces of your code base, is really hard, and it's not organized in a way that will align to the way that someone would explain you the changes that you're doing.
Exactly.
You're not explaining like, oh yeah, I changed this model and this is how the module changes these other files. It's much more like, this is the file, this is the changes, figure out like the story behind it.
Yeah, no, that you're exactly explaining the problem that I've been, like had in my head for many months now, where I'm like, there's so much code that I'm trying to review. This is not the best way to review it. It maybe worked before when you weren't reviewing that much code and you could kind of get around it. But now it feels like when you're reviewing more code, it feels like more of the bottleneck is in the PR review step. And so you have a demo, right? Or you can kind of show us what some of this is. And
let me try.
Maybe folks can see what the future of PR reviews might look like. Because it definitely isn't the GitHub PR review tab, I can tell you that.
Yeah, let me get access to all of the things. Hopefully nothing scary will be shown.
Yeah.
Give me 1 sec. I'm getting you all of the permissions again.
Yeah, no worries. And,
Uh,
the nice thing is if you're tuning in live, you get to see all the,
okay.
what's going on behind the scenes. And then when Jan goes and cuts it and releases it, and if you're watching later, you won't see any of this stuff.
Let's do allow to share screen. Entire screen. Okay. People should see the whole thing. Cool. So here what I'm showing, part of the cool things that I do is like test like these new models.
Okay, we're seeing a terminal window, it looks like.
Okay,
All
perfect.
right, yeah,
that
we
is
got it.
exactly what I want you to see.
All right, we're in it.
This is how
give us
all great demos start in a terminal.
Yeah, maybe
nowadays.
give us a click of zoom if you can.
Cool. There we
you
go.
go. Now we're in it.
So this is a game that I have been working on. It's called The Borrow. Essentially is every time that I have a new model that I've been testing out, I do like the conventional tests that kind of test out like the programmatic pieces of a model. But this one is more like a game that I've been developing. Is an Elden Ring implementation of what CodeRabbit does to bugs. I don't know. It's just like a fun project to have around, and essentially you just need to find different keys, go around, play around with it. The problem that I have found with like games and kind of like this type of like projects is just like the complexity starts to grow really, really quick. And again, like what we mentioned in the beginning, where like you have multiple pieces that you need to consider. Right now, I don't have the music, but there's like music pieces. There's all sorts of things here. Really fun project. I don't know if I'll ever open source it just because it's okay. It's not a great project, but it's something that is at least like something fun to work with. And okay, I died.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is I've done quite a bit of 2D game development too, and yeah, it's easy to make, maybe just like any software, get the prototype is pretty easy, and then if you actually want to make it complete, there's such a process of trying to actually complete a game. Then you get all these edge case bugs, and it's actually probably a good slightly different way to than just like a more general like cloud engineering type thing. But it feels very similar in that the 80% is easy, and then the last 20% takes forever.
Totally. And also, there's so many nuance into building games, like the styles. How do you express the styles? And then you learn a lot of like how models have certain preference for certain styles as you go, and certain preference for like the way that they are coding or doing these pieces. So here I have these. I don't know if there's anything. If you were to build any game, what would you add to it, or what should we add to this game?
What should we add to the game? Okay, well, you need some kind of goal. Looks like you're collecting, keys.
Yeah.
You have lives. So you have multiple levels. Okay.
From mid levels, we have.
Do you have you need a boss? You have some kind of boss battle in there?
Yeah. So we actually just hit a bug where I died, and it did not restart it. So maybe this is something we can fix.
Yeah,
right
let's
now.
fix that.
So I'm gonna go to Codex, because Codex is the main thing that I've been like using lately, and then I can be like, hey, ls. Of course, I forgot that I'm not in the terminal anymore. Let's go back to the terminal. Codex, and then here in Codex, let's ask. Let's just troll all and continue as always. Can you fix the bug where if I died once, I can't die again and it gets stuck? So I'm gonna get Codex to work on this, but in the meantime, I did had another demo here of a pull request that I've been working on, which is adding background music. I've been working with Strudel. I think Strudel is like pretty fun to work with.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Strudel.
Strudel is this very fun project that essentially allows you to create music using JavaScript. And
Nice.
essentially, it's super straightforward. The benefit that we have is that agents are really good with Strudel. So you can give them like a vibe, and they will find out a way to create like different tones and different pieces to it. So
Nice.
fun project to work around, and I've been working on trying to connect like Codex and other agents into Strudel to make them like do all these on their own. And once again, like this is kind of like a mid-sized kind of change where I have 700 new lines, 256 new ones, but the number of files that I'm changing is just like ridiculous. Like you can see there's like a huge amount of like different pieces of code. If I'm working on a startup or in a small team, probably don't have the time to go through all of these changes. But lucky enough, I do have like CodeRabbit running here. So CodeRabbit has gone through all of these changes, and I can review these changes in the normal like PR change review UI. But we enable like this new thing called the review change stack. We call them, okay, hang out with us, because before it was called Project Atlas, then it was called like Code Review Stack, and now it's just CodeRabbit reviews.
Okay.
So we've gone through some naming iterations. The hardest piece, I think, in creating product is just naming stuff.
Naming and branding.
so we definitely like have been like struggling with that piece. So what he's doing right now is pulling all of those changes from GitHub, and it's gonna run what CodeRabbit did while I was submitting the PR. Oh no, change tag isn't available. Of course, live demos.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a live demo if it didn't.
Let's see.
Didn't fail.
Let's try again. Let me reopen this one. Also, we're having an incident this morning, so hopefully I'm not being impacted by the incident. Okay, let's go. First with me. Change tag is unavailable. Cool. Well, hopefully, let me log out and log in again. Let's try this out.
And while you do that, I'll see if there's any Mastra ones that work.
Yeah, right now, my perception is that most likely we're being hit by the incident that was happening. Could not load. Otherwise, let me think what I can come up with. Let's see if this change already happened, the one that we're working on. Of course, I need to ask it to proceed without any changes. We'll see. We'll see if we can do a new PR in the meantime there's a possibility that probably the PR got like obsolete or something. My perception is most likely CodeRabbit did borrow. Let's try it again. Oh, what is going on? The borrow. Okay, come on, GitHub. Cool. Let's try one last time, see if it allows me in. No, it's not letting me in. I'm pretty sure it's probably the
Yeah, I'm seeing
the same thing.
thing. Yeah,
Okay, so
we'll just cut this part out.
so if you ever want to know what's our status, you can check CodeRabbit status. We can see that we're partially decorated right now. I was looking into this as we were like jumping in the stream today. But in the meantime,
Yeah.
I think highly recommend checking it out in probably like a couple of hours. The other piece that I think is worth mentioning is some of the work we've done with supporting coding agents to review any changes. A few months ago, we released the CLI plugin, and it has been growing and getting a ton of attention lately. So if we go to Codex, for example, I have the borrow here. I can ask it like add CodeRabbit. So the first thing here is plugins are great. I don't know, have you used like Codex plugins lately or at some point?
Not recently. No, I haven't.
No? Oh my God, you're missing out, dude. They're so freaking good.
I mean, I don't use Codex,
Oh,
so
are you more Claude?
no, I'm Master Code all the way.
Master Code? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Codex as probably the second best option.
We should work on something though.
But okay, yeah, okay. Talk me through Codex plugins. I mean, I play around with Codex a little bit. I use Claude Code mostly for comparison, but
so most of the things that we've learned is that a lot of agents are starting to one of the biggest costs that we found with code reviews is that waiting until you get to into like GitHub
into CI
on a PR.
Yeah.
It's very expensive for someone to review or get those suggestions on a PR, just because you're so separated away from the work that is being done. So if you can, if there was some way where we can bring those code reviews closer to the developer, to the workspace that they're using to work, we would have like great an increase in the quality of those changes, or a decrease in the cost of making those changes. Just like if you've seen like the cost of making code changes, if it's like on your in the piece that you're working on, it's very cheap. As long as it gets closer to production, it becomes more expensive to do like those fixes. Just because if it gets to production, then your user most likely is gonna start experiencing those bugs and issues.
Yeah, and not only that, but the extra time it takes from pushing the PR, then forgetting about it and waiting, and then having to come back to read all the PR comments, the CI failures, whatever. Anytime you can get that local to the engineer, so they can run their own cycle locally before they push it up, so they have more confidence that whatever they push up is going to be good.
Correct.
Like that just speeds up the feedback cycle.
And it requires less people kind of like taking a look into the PR, because then when it hits the PR, it is already cleaned. Most likely CodeRabbit is going to run again, but it's going to bring back either like nitpicks or small changes, but nothing critical or a major change.
So do you see a lot of people, I'm assuming people run this CLI manually, but are you seeing a lot of people where they just say, hey, agent, run this CLI and then fix it automatically, and then don't push up the PR till CodeRabbit's happy?
So we've seen people have rough loops with it.
Yeah.
So how it works, it is such an interesting implementation where you have your requirements, then you send like master code, whatever coding agent you have, to fulfill those requirements. Then it will fill the requirements, then runs CodeRabbit, and then CodeRabbit comes back and updates the requirements based on the findings that it has. And then you start another loop.
And then you just loop it.
And just let it run. Probably it's going to cost you some money to keep it running, but whatever. And then at the end of like probably a couple of cycles, CodeRabbit will say these code changes are clean. you can proceed. And then when it says it's clean, it automatically loops out, and you can tell like your coding agent to perform like a PR. The other piece that we've seen is people integrating it. I don't know, have you ever done this thing where you tell your coding agent like, hey, can you like commit this and push it to a new pull request?
Yeah.
We've seen a few people do that. And then ideally what you're trying to do with that is before you run that PR, or you tell the agent to do the commit and then send the PR, it's like, okay, before doing that commit, like perform a CodeRabbit review, check everything is working. And then if everything is clean, then just like push a PR. That is also a workflow that we're starting to see with the integration of the CLI. And what is interesting is that in the past last month, we found out that more agents are using the CodeRabbit CLI than humans. So
yeah, I mean that seems to be a trend. We're going to talk about that in the news later today. Is that it seems to be across the web more agents than humans, across people browsing docs, more agents than humans, now using CLIs, more agents than humans.
yeah,
I mean, we designed our Mastra CLI for that same reason. We designed it because we thought agents are going to use it more than humans, and so far that's proven to be true.
yeah. Docs is very, very interesting. Alex from our team dedicates like a ton of his life making great docs, and we've seen the increase this week. Like only this like today of agents using our docs is ridiculous. We're probably like 40 to 50% right now of people and things or agents looking. Like 50% are agents, and like the other 50% must be like humans now. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Alex is dedicating a lot of this time to make these docs consumable by agents. So essentially, the cool thing about the CLI is that then you can bring these to like different places. Plugins for both like the like people who are using like Claude or Codex work the same way, where it's like a combination of skills and they add a combination of different skills together to work in a way that you can just like call out like CodeRabbit and it will do what skill is the best for it. And also it's easier for the agent to know like which skills or plugins it can use. So it has like a better integration overall.
Nice.
That workflow has been like super, super interesting for a lot of folks to have done like your agent locally trying to do this rough loop thing without having to leave that session, making those code review changes like cheaper so they don't have to hit like. Also, if they hit your PR, it also hits sometimes your CI.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, you lost like a whole cycle of your CI.
Yeah, and you got to pay for all of it to run again, and you got to kick off a new. Exactly. Yeah, I think the closer you can get it to local, the better, the faster the loop, the cheaper it's going to be. Well, it's been great having you on the show. For people who are interested in getting started with CodeRabbit, there was one question in the chat, like, what's the advantage of using CodeRabbit? Why should I use CodeRabbit? What's the high level you tell people if they're considering CodeRabbit over others, or maybe they're not using a code review tool at all?
Yeah, I think we have the best balance between how thorough the reviews are and how noisy they are. And the thing is that the nature of coding and PRs is that you have, there's not a single way of doing code correctly. And coding agents can always come up with like thousands of different ways of doing that. The thing here is you're trying to get the agent to understand the intention of your code, but also of the changes that you've done, and then ensure that the coding agent is not asking things that are beyond that scope. So that is like noise, where the agent is asking or suggesting things that are beyond the scope or the intention of that change. I think CodeRabbit has a good balance between that and how deep it can go through all of the code changes that you have performed. The other piece that is pretty good is the cost relation. Right now, I think we are probably one of the only few, or not to say the only ones, that have like a monthly subscription base. Everyone now has moved to usage based. And that is because like we are not using a single model for making these code reviews. We're using an ensemble of models that make the most out of like not only the models themselves, but also of what you're paying for those code reviews. So it's like the best relation, I would say, between like quality and cost at the moment.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you coming on the show, talking about CodeRabbit. If you're looking to get better code reviews, you know where to go. Thanks again for letting us, come hang out in the space. And, we have a saying at Mastra, you don't send it for a human until the rabbit is happy. So we're happy users. All All right. Thanks, Juan.
Thank y'all.
Every week in AI, something insane happens.
And there's so much drama. Every Monday, we break it down live.
We do the news, we bring on guests, building in the space.
And we go deep into the stuff that actually matters.
Agents Hour. Every Monday, noon Pacific.
Follow. Don't miss it.
Peace.
World, get involved.
All right, dude.
That was fun.
That was fun. We're running behind like we do every week.
Yep.
We got more to cover. We got to get into the news. So let's just
Yep.
get
Jump
right
in.
into it.
Let me get back into the studio too. But yeah.
All right, let's jump into the news today.
Back at it again.
There's always some drama. There's always things for us to talk about.
Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Let me share my screen and we will talk through the news of the day. All right. Here's a little preview of what we're going to be talking about today. First things first, let's talk about 8x faster. Bots are greater than humans. Okay, what does that mean? Well, Anthropic released a report, or at least a message, a tweet that said, today, Anthropic engineers on average ship 8 times as much code per quarter as they did compared to 2021 to 2025. So essentially there's a timeline here of releases, and the argument that they're making based on, just I would assume metrics is per engineer, the average engineer is now shipping 8 times as many lines of code. So we can argue if lines of code is a good metric, especially with AI able to generate it, but 8 times as many lines of code per engineer getting shipped. So what do you think about that?
I had a really cheeky comment to that. Let me see if I can share it.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because someone internally said, saw those HTML files, and then you responded with this.
Yeah, I was like, 55 HTML files, 55 React components, 55 MCP servers, 55 tool calls, 55 agents, 55 workflows, 55 emails, 55 prompts, 55 vector DBs, 55 Claude.md files, please. If you guys like Tim Robinson, you should check it out. But I just thought it was so perfect for this thing.
It was, yeah. That's a good one way to ship 8 times as much code. So they're, and when you have everything in HTML versus Markdown files as what Tariq has been promoting, and I doubt they commit that, but it's just kind of funny. You could argue that just because it's 8 times as much doesn't mean it's actually 8 times as productive. But I do agree with the sentiment, though, that on average, engineers are able to ship more with these models. I think that is true. Whether it's 8 times as much, that seems a little, But we don't have, maybe we don't have the Mythos preview access that they have yet, right?
Yeah. Or, 8 times the code, but is it 8 times the value? That's what I question.
I would argue probably not.
Why not?
This came out and got a lot of
Look at
traction.
this screen share again.
Oh, let me share it here. And then this post came out right after that. Anthropic employees are depressed. And this is probably anecdotal, but it got a ton of attention after the post that was kind of talking about how fast Anthropic is moving in general. And they're saying, well, their employees aren't very happy. And I don't know if I agree that on par they're not happy, but it's just kind of a funny anecdote that just because you're moving faster doesn't mean you're happier.
Yeah.
We talked about this. If you're watching live and you saw us talking to Juan from CodeRabbit, we talked about this a little bit, but agentic traffic is passing human traffic in a lot of ways on the internet, in docs, using CLIs. But Matthew Prince from Cloudflare said, it happened faster than I predicted. Agentic traffic bots have now surpassed human traffic online for the first time in the internet's history.
It's wild.
And he was expecting first he thought end of 2027, then early 2027, and now it's
already here.
Middle of 2026. Dang. That's a fast on-ramp.
Yeah.
We got to talk about loop engineering. And this first one's funny because it was taken down. So there was a post from about Boris, a video, Boris talking about looping. And I can't show you the post because it's been removed from X because apparently it wasn't supposed to be able to post it. But you watch the post. Tell the folks that are watching, what was the post about? What was the sentiment around this like idea of what loop engineering is?
Yeah, so apparently in this video, it was an interview with Boris from Claude Code, and he pretty much was like loop maxing on everybody, saying that he doesn't really prompt anymore. He tries to figure out the right loops to run, and now he's in this like loop engineering kind of phase, which I thought it was interesting. When you have unlimited tokens, you could do whatever you want, so that's totally cool. But it caused a lot of controversy, lots of talk on Twitter. And I'm thinking that Anthropic is not really down for all this Twitter hate. Maybe that's why they took down the post or something like that. But I'm really curious why they took the post down.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's someone else posted it without permission or something.
Yeah.
Peter Steinberger also weighed in and said, here's your monthly reminder that you shouldn't be prompting coding agents anymore. You should be designing loops that prompt your agents. It's a similar sentiment, and it happened within the same, roughly couple days. And internally, I know we have some folks that are starting to experiment with this quite a bit more as well. We had Ruben in the chat ask, do you guys still prompt?
Yes and no. I think we are designing loops ourselves. If you look at the last month of the coding agent wars, Anthropic came out with the /workflow, which takes your input and turns it into a dynamic workflow, which can then be repeatable or not, if that's up to you, which is essentially a loop creation mechanism. You go from idea to deterministic workflow that can have a lot of parallelism, up to 16 or so. I think we'll have a diagram that we'll show in a second.
Yeah, maybe we should jump right into that.
Yeah, let's just jump into it.
We want to talk through kind of some of the evolution of, what we'll call looping.
Yeah.
Looping is what
Always
everyone's
be
talking
looping.
Always be looping. So the traditional loop, I don't think this is dead. I use this still quite a bit.
Yeah.
You just send a prompt. Maybe optionally you put it into a plan. Maybe sometimes you don't. So the plan step is optional. Your code agent does some stuff. You provide some feedback. You look at it and say like, no, don't do that. Yes, do this. Or wait, we also need to add this. And then you loop. And then eventually you PR it. Maybe you have CodeRabbit review it or you review it or whatever. And then, you repeat the cycle. That's the traditional loop.
And this is what they're telling you not to do.
Yes.
Essentially.
Which I think is bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not for everything. Like there are times I think more complex loops are valuable.
Yeah.
But to say you shouldn't be prompting anymore is just clickbaity. And I think the answer is it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're doing a bug fix that you know the answer to, just send it in this loop and you probably don't even have to provide a lot of feedback.
Yeah, it
So
might be like one turn.
Yeah, you don't need a big goal or huge written plan.
Yeah.
And if it's something that's very important and you want to deeply understand it, you probably should ride the loop. So riding the loop means you're on the loop. You're providing the feedback.
Yeah.
I think there are some times where you still want to be on the loop.
Yeah. Only the Sith speak in absolutes, right?
Yeah.
So
Then if for those of you that have been kind of, following the space for a while, there's this concept of the Ralph loop, right? Where you prompt, you create a plan, you decompose that plan into a set of tasks. Usually it's in a file, it could be in a, some kind of DB or project management system, whatever. And then your code agent will continue to loop through the task list, completing off tasks, marking that it's completed the task, and it'll continue to loop with fresh context each time. And the idea around that was compaction was pretty bad, and you didn't want the code agent to maintain its state, so you wanted fresh context each time. But eventually the code agent would decide it completed all the tasks, and the loop would finish. And sometimes you'd add, like there's a progress file you could add. I mean, there's some different ways you could do it, but this is the general flow. Like your code agent is looping on itself and completing a task list.
we used to do a lot of Ralph loops that none of the code actually emerged, but we were running hella loops for a while.
It was good for prototypes.
Yeah, it was the beginning of the year. you know?
That was like December. That was like Christmas and New Year's time frame. A lot of Ralph loops.
Always be looping in that
and then,
phase.
Then goal came out.
Yep.
So this idea around, /goal is you probably create a plan, but you don't have to.
Yep.
I usually recommended the more detailed the goal and the plan, the better. So you create a plan, you run /goal, your code agent will try to complete the goal. Then you have some kind of judge or evaluation agent that checks, did you finish the plan? It'll critique it, almost like it's reviewing it as it goes. And then eventually you go through, the loop is complete, and maybe you PR it. So that's a goal loop. And I use this quite a bit, especially for tasks that you want to run a little bit longer, that you have more, you can better define what you're looking for. You can kind of let it run, and it might run for half an hour, and it'll do its thing.
Yeah. And this is where I think designing your loop comes into it comes really handy, because goal loops can run for hours and hours and hours. I mean, I ran a goal loop over the weekend, 12 hours, which is nothing compared to some people's goal loops of like 36 hours or whatever. But if we're anticipating a long running agent future, it's going to require a very detailed plan, a very detailed goal, and then a really good judge.
And then recently with Claude Code coming out with dynamic workflows, let's talk through kind of what that looks like. You still do you prompt into a plan, you create some kind of plan, most likely. You have a code agent that then essentially creates a script.
Yep.
And there's all these like dashed lines, because this could change every time, because it's creating its own workflow a little bit more deterministically. It's spawning multiple parallel sub-agents to accomplish that. It typically will have some kind of judge or like fixing agent that'll also be there at the end, and it'll try to basically write a workflow that will complete that task, whatever the task is. And it'll define a workflow based on what it thinks is best for completing that task. And
Anthropic released like a bunch of different workflow structures that they're kind of setting up through these loops, right? This is just another form of a loop. Benefit here, though, is these can be repeatable. So if you are doing long-running tasks that are repetitive in some way, along the way you can assemble workflows that maybe just the input changes, but the whole structure is still the same. So I think there's some merit here in dynamic workflows as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea, that if you're designing your own loop, you might be designing workflows that, depending on the types of tasks you may want to use to accomplish those tasks.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, do you think there's need for people to go beyond what you can get with goal or dynamic workflows and craft it themselves? It sounds like it made it seem like Boris and even others on our team are kind of really meticulously planning out how they want this loop to work.
Yeah.
Do you think that's valuable for people, or should they live in the just /goal world right now?
I think our team is living in /goal. I mean, we're working on the dynamic workflow piece. I have not seen the value of the dynamic workflow piece, have a prototype of it. But goal, I've seen so much value. And maybe it's because we need to start daily driving dynamic workflows to see the value. But yeah, I guess more to come there. We want to support both, especially like some tasks are fit for deterministic workflows. Some are really exploratory. You don't really know what the hell to do. So goal is really nice for that.
And Juan Lopez says, what's next? Scheduled task engineering, where you craft cron tasks to check on your loops? Hey, it might be
That's
a
what
thing.
a heartbeat is, right?
Yeah, it might be a thing. Yeah, that's next. Yeah, it's because loop engineering is just a different name for AI engineering. It's just the new hype word.
Yeah.
It's getting better at your job.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's like now there's some new tools. Maybe you can do things differently. It's not all one size fits all.
Yeah, new patterns.
Yeah. All right, let's continue on with the news. So OpenAI shipped last week. This was June 2nd. It says, this is a tweet from OpenAI. It says, building apps has never been easier. With sites, Codex can turn your work, ideas, and plans into an interactive website or app your team can explore, use, and share with a URL, rolling out to business and enterprise plans before expanding more broadly. So this is like a Lovable or a Replit for business and enterprise users, and then eventually probably for all users.
Yeah.
So
I think we had a bunch of internal discussion about this, how pretty much Lovable's cooked. Codex is going to take their market share. And I really like this one quote, which was like, the model used most on Lovable is the one that is going to destroy Lovable by replacing it. So
Yeah, which is also wild because Lovable probably gave it all the training data
exactly.
to make an even better model for that task.
Oh man,
which is just, that's the,
it's just the way it goes in this.
the way it
this
goes with the
game.
model labs. They're trying to eat everyone's lunch. So Cognition came out and said AI should earn its keep, introducing AI productivity guarantee. If Devon delivers less engineering value than you're paying for, Cognition will fund your usage until it does, up to 10 million. It's time for the AI industry to stop maximizing tokens and start maximizing productive output. So they want seems like mostly for like enterprise users or whatever, they're basically willing to say, hey, we'll give you free tokens if it doesn't meet a value threshold. And I didn't read into exactly how to define it, but apparently they have some mechanism for defining what is productive output, which I think is kind of hard to define.
Yeah, maybe it's just merged PRs or accepted changes from Devon. This is pretty cool because there's a lot of conversation right now about people not getting value from the tokens spent. And I mean, we use Devon, and there's definitely tons of tokens that are worthless that we've spent.
Yeah,
Things that never
PRs that are
merge.
open that are never merged.
Never merged. So like I would consider that not having value, right? So maybe we should get our money back on those.
I mean, I think there is value sometimes in unmerged code if you're prototyping.
Yeah.
But if the intention when you opened it was to actually make the fix and you don't make the fix, that is wasted.
Yeah.
Completely wasted. If your intention was to prototype something and learn from it, then who cares if it wasn't merged? That was your goal.
Yeah.
But I think there are many instances where we have open PRs and then they just sit there and rot because it's easy to open PRs now.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them merged through.
Yeah. Unless you use CodeRabbit or something.
It definitely helps. Introducing Devon Desktop. This is another one from Cognition. Managing fleets of local and cloud agents from one surface. Plan, delegate, review, and ship without leaving your editor. So Devon Desktop. And I think this is, kind of what they started to pull like Windsurf into, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, Windsurf is dead.
yeah, but basically, I think they've tried to basically kill Windsurf, and
Now they have this.
they have this is like their new thing.
Yeah.
Like, don't use Windsurf, use Devon Desktop instead.
Dude, pour one out for Windsurf. We used to use Windsurf.
I was a Windsurfer
I was a windsurfer too.
for a few months.
R.I.P.
For a couple months at least. What was
Yeah.
it, 2 months maybe?
Then we turned into cursor dudes.
Well, it was Cursor, then it was Windsurf, then it was back to Cursor.
Yeah. R.I.P. Windsurf.
Pour one out.
Pour one out.
All right. Cloudflare acquires Void Zero. So Void Zero is running Cloudflare. Our mission stays the same to make JavaScript developers more productive than ever. So this is just interesting. Cloudflare making acquisitions, making moves.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happening with the Chinese models. I saw some other posts similar to this, but this is a post that says it's a shift towards Chinese models by American AI startups. So this is from Open Router API calls. And you can see that, since really January, it's really started to overtake US models. So more Chinese model tokens than US model tokens are being spent on Open Router.
I believe it.
And, as supporting evidence, Flo from Lindy said they pulled the trigger today and switched 100% of Lindy traffic to DeepSeek V4, churning from Anthropic models. Saves us millions of dollars, and we're actually seeing an increase in performance on many use cases. Transformative for the business because DeepSeek is probably,
Super
a tenth,
cheap.
a 20th of the cost?
Yeah.
And if they're able to say, even if it's 99% on 95% on some things and maybe even more than 100% improvement on other things, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, you don't need Opus for everything.
Yeah.
That's like these like really expensive frontier models are going to be like the limiting factor for many businesses, we are very much playing with open models as well. DeepSeek being one of our favorites. Qwen 3.7 Max is also a very good one.
We've been testing Minimax. People on our team are using GLM.
Yep.
I mean, we've been experimenting with all of them, and there are definitely cases where it's not as good,
Yeah.
but there are often times you don't need it to be as good.
Yeah. You just need it to be capable
Yeah.
and not slow.
So Notion came out and said they had to swap over from Anthropic models because of more Anthropic downtime. Seems like even the new compute still has not completely mitigated their reliability issues over there. Maybe it's because they ship so much code.
Yeah. Maybe they're running too many loops.
There are too many loops. The internal folks at Anthropic are looping too much. It's hurting everyone else's usage of it. But yeah, it's interesting because I imagine Notion will just turn it off temporarily. We'll go back when it's up. But you do have to think that if big companies like Notion are continuing to have issues with reliability, they're just going to start using these other models.
Yep.
I mean,
They'll pull
So-
a Lindy.
yeah, they'll pull Lindy. They'll go to OpenAI and a bunch more models released. So we'll run through these pretty quick. So today we're introducing Gemma 4 12B. Is it Gemma?
Gemma.
I never know how to pronounce it. But it's the latest open model that brings advanced agentic reasoning, vision, and audio directly to your laptop. So this was released by Google. Google releases Gemma 4 QAT. So you can run it. It's basically quantized aware training. So you can run it on less RAM. You want to say something about that?
Yeah. This is all, in my opinion, forecasting on device models. Android will have a Gemma variant, and then AI will now be on your phone. Except for us people who use Apple, we're screwed. But if you're an Android user, you'll have AI on your phone, that's where all this is leading, right? These smaller models.
Yeah, and maybe that gets, maybe that's the key for Android to maybe assert dominance.
Yeah,
'cause I
in
think
the short term.
I feel like Android probably still, more people use Android than iPhone today or not. I don't know.
I mean,
but
globally, yeah.
globally, but maybe not in the US. But if it had better native AI support, maybe that's a way for people to consider an Android phone.
Plus, if you're using a smaller parameter model on your phone and it actually is very capable, that just shows you that you do not need a frontier model as well,
Yeah. So Gemma introduced Magenta Real-Time 2, an open model musicians can play as an instrument. So you can basically play it as an instrument, which is pretty cool
Super cool.
if you're a musician. So there was also a release last week called Miso 1. It's the most emotive voice model in the world. So people are still trying to innovate on voice models. That's good. I mean, I think, it's pretty impressive what's already out there. And the fact that there's even more models that are getting released, it's a good thing. Nematron 3.5 ASR streaming. So NVIDIA is releasing a whole bunch just on the Nematron family. So this came out last week as well. And Liquid AI introduced LFM 2.5. I'm not going to read that whole thing, but vision language models that return structured JSON, not freeform text. So it's like JSON specific structured responses. So you pass in an image and a list of fields, get back a clean JSON object.
I've been doing a lot of like macOS automation lately, and I think VLMs are going to be a huge part of the story, right? Who wants to take screenshots of shit, right? Like you should just know what's on the page. And I don't know the mechanisms for that yet, but like Juan was saying that it's an ensemble of models put together. Like I think that's really that's why it's important for all these different individual models to get better.
You got to have really good voice. You got to have really good VLM. You got to have good, PDF parsing. You got to have all these things need to come together.
Yeah.
So this is from base 10. GLM 5.1 now achieves 160 tokens per second and a less than 2-second time to first token on base 10. So they're releasing some stuff over there to try to make inference faster.
Yep.
They're trying to compete directly with Fireworks. Minimax M3 got faster. So not only new models, but people are trying to make these models fast, which makes sense. So I know we had been testing Minimax M3, and your first comment was it's pretty good, but it's slow.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, they said we just made it faster.
And it is not that much faster, but it's faster for sure.
Yeah.
They don't have the same hardware as we do in the mighty USA.
Yeah.
But just use it on Fireworks and you'll be fine.
And then speaking of Fireworks, Minimax M3 arrives with Minimax sparse attention. So it's 15.6x faster at decoding 1 million tokens. And then they're partnering with it to power inference. So if you do want to try it out, use it on Fireworks.
Yep.
All right, some funding. So Suno raised a whole bunch of money. Well, good, because we need some new intro music and outro music. So make it even better. We'll use it.
I feel like they just raised too.
I know. It seems like it's been pretty recent. And then Supabase raised a bunch of money, and Supabase's comment was, most databases are now created with, basically most databases are created with agents, by agents, or are used for agents, not necessarily by humans. And as another thing that's kind of on this topic is SpaceX is apparently going public on Friday too.
Friday, yeah.
So that's
SPCX.
so.
Who's gonna buy it?
So if you're going to buy, Anthropic was rumored to start the process, but SpaceX and, plus XAI is part of that, right? Is all going public on Friday. So it's definitely in this space.
Sorry.
And if you can't tell, Abby's dealing with a little cold.
Yep.
He's, he's powering through here for the show. Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky started a new AI lab. So he's still going to remain the CEO of Airbnb, but he's basically starting a lab on the side, which is interesting.
Yeah, focus on design and UI, which I believe. I mean, he's been talking about this even when we were in YC when he came to talk to us. That he's really focused. Like he doesn't think AI is good at front end engineering or UI or anything.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's good at front end engineering and UI if you want everything to look the same.
Exactly.
So in that case, it's not very good
Yeah.
at front end engineering, but I would agree that there's definitely more that could be done there. So it'd be cool if he actually spins something up.
It'd be interesting to see some new UX patterns come out of whatever this is. But Tyler on our team is betting anyone $100 that if they do produce a model and it's better than open models today, he'll pay you $100.
Who? This?
Anybody?
Anybody?
Yeah. Well, if Chesky could do it, which
Yeah.
he does not believe they can. So
All right. Tyler's bet. All right. I thought this was funny. There's this isAIprofitable.com, which basically says, no, AI is not profitable yet because if you are following the space, you know that oftentimes it's one AI company paying another AI company. It's just money moving around.
Yeah.
And so this tries to remove that from the equation. Say, if you didn't count an AI company paying another AI company, is there actually money? And the answer is today, no.
there's money for one
Everyone's
company
broke.
in particular, though.
Yeah.
That one company. Can you all guess which that one company is?
Yeah, there's it's all flowing to one. But
Mr. Huang's company.
yeah. Let's go through the quick hits.
Yep.
So V0, you can now launch production-ready Shopify storefronts without leaving V0. That's cool.
Cool.
Factory introduced model routing to Factory, so now Factory will pick the right model for the tasks. Again, kind of what we were talking about, though. You don't always need the best model,
Yeah.
so it's going to do it for you. I mean, I think the negative to this is it certainly breaks the prompt cache, but if it's a really long-running task and very expensive, it's probably okay. For daily tasks, maybe it's less. Just the prompt cache saves you some money.
I feel like the prompt caching is becoming a crutch.
Yeah, I think
Unfortunately.
I think everyone leans into like, oh, is it prompt cache? And it's because they discounted so much.
Yeah.
But if you could go from Opus to DeepSeek for some things,
Yeah.
even cached Opus is more expensive than DeepSeek
Exactly.
on par. So just
Yeah. Like, what are you supposed to do? Just like stick with it just because you have a prompt cache, or do you do what the right thing to do is?
yeah.
I'm sure this whole caching thing will get solved too. So.
Hermes agent introduced Hermes desktop. So everything you love about Hermes now native on your machine. So you can use it locally and not just, I guess you have your own desktop app now to run Hermes. And that's it. That's the show. Snuck up on me there.
Yeah.
Um,
It was a pretty chill news week.
yeah, there's, you can, of course, follow us. You should go give us a star on GitHub. I think we're almost at 25,000 stars.
Almost. Maybe this week.
So maybe right now, if you're listening, go, slam the star button if you haven't already. If you're somehow have watched to the end of the show and you have not given Mastra
What are you
Repo
doing?
a star, I'd be surprised. But go give us a star. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. Follow us on X at Mastra.
We have more stars than AISDK. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So if
Not by much though, but
So
we did it, guys.
That's why we need your help.
We
Come
did it,
on,
y'all.
let's go. You can follow me on X, smthomas3. You can follow Abhi at Abhi Aiyer. This has been Agents Hour. We do this thing every week. We bring on guests. So if you watch the show, you notice we had 2 guests live because we were in the CodeRabbit office today, which was awesome. Sometimes we bring on virtual guests. And and we also talk about the news. So we appreciate you being here live with us. Appreciate you, like Juan Lopez in the chat, doing it live. And, even Sebastian, I missed this comment. The shovel seller always wins.
That's
Yeah.
it's pretty good advice right there. I just want to give thanks to CodeRabbit. If y'all don't use CodeRabbit, we highly recommend it. We use it every day. It's kind of saved our asses for 2 big product releases. And like Shane said earlier on the show, we do not do code review until the rabbit is happy. It's a really good thing that's worked out for us. Hopefully it works out for you. Check out their change stack. Check out all the stuff they're doing. They have crazy customers, Indeed, Mastra, and many of the likes. So thanks, CodeRabbit, and we'll hope to be back in the studio soon.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Agents Hour. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Yo, that show's a wrap. We were live in the zone. AI Agents Hour, Shane and Abhi on the throne. Did you give us that review? Only if it's a 5. Jump on the tube, make sure to like and subscribe. News so fresh, we keep you in the loop. Guests so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. Did you just drop in? Is this your first time? Make sure to follow us on X and go like and subscribe. Learn the principles and patterns in our books. The Mastra.ai site, give it a look. News so fresh, we keep you in the loop. Guests so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. This is the end, we all wrapped up. Another showdown, another one coming up. AI Agents Hour's done, but the news doesn't cease. Shane and Abhi, we out of here. Peace.